Welcome everyone to today's webinar, How Progress Can Simplify Data Access for Cisco. Today's session, you'll learn how Progress technology can differentiate your solutions from the competition, speed time to market, and slash risk. This is Marlis Furs, your host for today's session. Keith Boehner, Cisco Account Manager, and Jamie Merritt, Vice President Product Management at Progress, are looking forward to presenting Progress technology exclusively to the Cisco team. Keith Boehner is the Western U.S. Senior Account Manager for ISVs and OEMs. Keith has been in software sales for 20 years and is 1 month new into Progress. And Keith lives out in the Bay Area. So welcome, Keith.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Jamie Merritt is joining us here in the Morrisville studios. Jamie is an accomplished technologist and vendor strategy professional with over 15 years in the software industry. Prior to dedicating his focus to data, Jamie held a number of technical and business roles that focused on bringing new products to market and building successful businesses around them in the business process management, complex event processing, and integration SOA market landscapes. He is based out of the Progress DataDirect offices here in North Carolina. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you, Marlis.
I would like to hand today's session off to Keith Boehner.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for setting some time aside today to kind of cover about how Progress software has been able to help companies like Cisco, HP, IBM, Oracle, just to name a few, as far as how they handle their data, how they manage their data across multiple systems when it's not their real core competency. And let's just talk about Progress software as a company. We've been around for 25 plus years in the driver, largely being in the driver industry, in the driver business, I should say. That said, obviously we've got almost 140, almost 150,000 enterprise solutions, enterprises in over 175 companies throughout the world. These are companies and partners throughout the world that recognize the simple fact that building drivers and managing drivers and maintaining drivers is not their core competency. There's no sense to do that, so they engage with Progress. And that's largely been why Progress Software as a public company has been as successful as it's been over the last 25 plus years. So hopefully this gives you a sense as far as our history and the support that we've been able to provide to companies like Cisco. And at the end of the day, this is a good snapshot as far as who are those other OEM channels that we have, other companies, other packaged software vendors, and application development and deployment vendors, and infrastructure vendors, and business applications, etc. And at the end of the day, these are the 5 basic reasons why the ISVs will choose Progress DataDirect. Keep it simple. There's no sense to go out there and try to change the world and building your own drivers and connect to various database systems out there in the world that exist today, especially with the rise of big data. With the rise of big data that's coming out in SQL, we've got the likes of the Hadoops and the Cassandras and the Impalas and Cloudera, etc. Lots of different drivers and lots of different distributions that span all those different drivers. Surely enough to drive an IT strategist nuts as far as being able to try to keep up with everything that's new and everything that's shiny that's coming out there. It's capturing the eyes of the executives within the organizations. So focus on your core competency. That's what DataDirect allows you to do. And overall, we'll reduce some costs and support costs. And we'll be able to take a lot of that QA process off of your plate and off your developers' plate, because we know that those teams are very busy and trying to keep up with, again, the shiny objects that are out there for the executive teams, and keep the software running as it's to be expected for your customers. So that hopefully gives you a good enough reason as far as why ISVs and OEM the Progress DataDirect drivers. And at this point in time, I'm going to make the transition and hand the ball over to Jamie Merritt, who's the VP of Product Development, as he was given a fantastic intro earlier. And Jamie, I'll let you take it away, and I'll be sitting over here on mute listening to the rest of the call.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Keith. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our products today. Once again, thank you very much. I want to echo Keith's thanks to you for joining and taking time out of your day to work with us on this presentation. So I'm going to talk to you about all of the Progress products, but I'm really going to focus in on three distinct ones. Progress as an organization, we have an umbrella strategy in our platform we call Progress Pacific, and we solve a number of different problems through Progress Pacific. So it's an open platform really designed around the needs of big data integration, developing application development, mobile application development, and finally solving your analytics challenges. But I'm not going to cover all of that today. I'm really focusing in on how we can best help Cisco solve your data access needs and your business rules needs. So with that, I'm really going to focus on three of our 6 major product lines that are part of Pacific. I'll talk about Progress DataDirect, which is our core data connectivity business, and many of the partners that Keith spoke to you about during his brief intro are really partners around Progress DataDirect, embedding our connectors and our technology inside of their applications. So when they walk into a customer environment, they're able to connect right out of the box with all the systems they find in that IT ecosystem. DataDirectCloud, our new approach to delivering that similar connectivity, but delivered as a cloud-hosted service. We'll talk a bit about that. And finally, Progress Corticon, which is our business rules management system, and to help you understand how potentially business rules could fit and align with some of the work that you're doing inside of Cisco. So with that, let me kick it off, and we're going to start with really our connectivity businesses around DataDirect and DataDirectCloud. Whenever I start this, I always start with a discussion of what problems do we solve. There are really 3 core problems for data connectivity that we solve inside of our DataDirect business. First and foremost, connecting any of your applications to their core database, so core operational data underlying a particular application. So whether you're building a network management product, or you're building an ERP system, or you're building a new mobile application for that matter, there is a certain amount of application data that's vital for the operation of your app. So the genesis of the DataDirect business, and really where we grew from, is building those core connectors that allow you to access your operational data, which today is most often still stored in a relational database, but we do see more and more usage and connectivity and needs around NoSQL databases, so Mongo sitting underneath a web application, or even big data systems like Hadoop and doing larger scale analytics applications sitting on top of that. So that's problem number 1. Problem 2 is, in addition to core application data, your applications really need to connect to the world of data outside of your application. So whether you're trying to pull your customer master data from a CRM system, or you're trying to integrate with another proprietary application sitting inside of your IT ecosystem, or you're trying to connect across a variety of Cisco products, there's your app and your app's data, and then there's all the other data outside of your application that's required for your app to do its core function. And that's problem 2. Finally, problem 3 is connecting the world to your application and your data. Really what that is about is providing a standards-based approach that allows people, allows tools, allows existing technologies to access the data sitting inside of your applications or sitting inside of your core databases. So not only do we allow you to help connect your applications to the data that they need, but also we provide mechanisms which allow others to connect using standards-based mechanisms into the data residing inside of your application. So those are the 3 problems we solve at DataDirect. We do so with our portfolio of these 3 lead products that are part of our connectivity portfolio. So there's DataDirect Connect. Connect is our core on-premise connector business. We provide ODBC, JDBC, and ADO.NET drivers to all of the leading operational data stores, so relational databases, data warehouses. We even have drivers for big data like Hadoop, NoSQL data sources like Mongo or Cassandra, and finally SaaS systems like Salesforce. So Connect is our flagship product, and we started with that core of relational connectivity, and have expanded out beyond to provide SQL-based, standards-based connectivity to a variety of sources, whether or not they support SQL. And that's really the magic of DataDirect, is making everything in the world look like it's an on-premise relational database sitting in your IT environment, whether it is a relational database or a big data system or a SaaS application. All of those are available through one standards-based interface. Progress DataDirect Cloud. This is really an extension or an evolution of our Connect business and really delivers that connectivity through the cloud. So I give you one core driver, whether it fits into ODBC or JDBC, that's based on the requirements of your application. Is it Java, is it native, etc. I give you that one driver. It connects to our cloud service, and then all of those sources that we have in our portfolio are available through DataDirect Cloud. So whether you want to talk to a SaaS application, a big data application, even if you want to connect through the cloud back to on-premise data sitting in an Oracle database or a SQL Server database, through that one driver to DataDirect Cloud, you can access any and all sources through our cloud service. And finally, there's even sources that we don't support in DataDirect, whether they're proprietary sources, whether they're part of your application and a standard API around your applications at Cisco, or for a variety of reasons we may not have a particular connector for that. Well, Open Access, DataDirect Open Access, that's our SDK that allows you to develop your own connectors. So the advantage of something like an Open Access based driver is that suddenly, once you build that once you implement that one class or that one interface inside of Open Access, we can generate an ODBC, a JDBC, an ADO.NET driver that's fully standards-based, that plugs into standards-based tools. So if you need access for your you need analytics tools to access your applications, providing a standards-based driver is usually the most expedient path to do so. Because suddenly you fit into Excel, you fit into all of the common BI tools, you fit into all the common ETL tools through Open Access by creating that one implementation of a quick interface. It's about 12 functions. You can have all of these different standards-based access mechanisms available for Cisco applications. So quick review: Connect, flagship product line, core one-to-one connectors for individual sources. DataDirect Cloud, delivering that connectivity through a cloud service. So whether you're connecting to sources in the cloud or sources on-premise, I give you one driver and it plugs into everything. And finally, Open Access, when you need to extend our portfolio to build connectivity for a specific source, like for example giving analytics access to one of your Cisco applications, Open Access is a great fit for that job. So I told you, a little bit of the genesis of the DataDirect business is that we really started out with a core focused on creating relational connectors. This was before ODBC and before JDBC, and even as SQL was being standardized. So we led the market and grew our initial base around connectivity to core relational databases. But the next generation of connectivity needs is really driving our roadmap today. And really the two trends and the two big influences on how we've been expanding our portfolio so aggressively have really come from SaaS and big data. So it used to be, I talk about the good old days of data access, where at least we all had applications, we all had databases, and they were all sitting inside of our data center. Well, certainly that's no longer the case. With the advent of cloud services, with the massive adoption, explosion in SaaS applications, we find more and more of that business-critical data locked outside the corporate firewall, only accessible through proprietary APIs. So what we do at DataDirect is we adapt to those APIs, and we make all of those APIs feel and look like standards-based ODBC, JDBC connectivity. We do the same thing in the big data market. If you look at big data today, big data has also experienced tremendous growth. Not only in the quantity of data that people are storing, but in the number of options they have and the variety of platforms they have in which to store that data. So once again, we take all of those different big data systems, whether you're using 80 different distributions of Hadoop, or 5 different SQL engines inside of Hadoop, or a NoSQL database, all of those, we normalize that interface and make it really easy to access the data as if it were sitting in a SQL-oriented database. So a lot of what we do in DataDirect for a lot of these news sources is take things that don't support SQL natively, or don't even necessarily have query languages, and take those proprietary APIs and shape them and adapt them so they look and feel like traditional relational databases, which everyone knows how to code to. Everyone has a ton of frameworks built around using. So this provides a lot of value to customers. It makes it really easy for people to get started supporting a variety of new data sources, whether they're SaaS, big data, or core relational data warehouses. So we provide a full portfolio of connectors, all the core relational databases, whether they're legacy or a single user, or obviously scaling up to the biggest Oracle servers in the world. We provide relational databases, a ton of big data connectivity, SaaS and cloud connectivity. We even help connect to B2B protocols. So this is an ever-growing and ever-increasing list. I'm sure as you look at it, I'm sure you can highlight and see a few sources that Cisco uses today. And maybe at the end of this webinar, we can engage in a bit of conversation around what are the most important sources to Cisco, for example. So why do people choose DataDirect? A couple reasons that I'll go through. So blistering fast performance. Very often people call in DataDirect in the last hour of an emergency because they've hit a new requirement or they're transitioning to a new platform, and suddenly their entire application is crumbled and is falling to its knees because it can no longer deal with the performance requirements of that application. So DataDirect, we often come in and replace free or cheap, let's call them, cheap connectors that are available in the market simply because we provide the best market-leading performance for connectivity to your data. And very few people realize how important and how much of the performance is actually related to data access. Once you have a well-tuned database, there's still a huge bottleneck in place if you're not using the right connectivity solutions. So a good example of this from our customer base is Yamaha. Yamaha was moving from an IBM shop all towards SQL Server and Linux. And what they found is that the volume of data on these new systems, on these new deployments, really brought that system, as I said, to its knees due to the performance of the system. They plugged in the DataDirect SQL driver. It replaced the free driver that was available. And suddenly, without any tuning, received a 20 times performance increase. So the nature of our drivers is that you plug them in, they fit in exactly into the standard support that's available already in the tool. So it's really easy to get started, really easy to do a proof of concept, and usually you see immediate performance advantages. And once you tune the drivers and actually put the effort into shaping it to your specific configuration requirements, you can usually do well beyond even 20 times performance increase. Connecting the world across systems, devices, applications, and people. Well, I don't have to read that to you, but what that really means is making it really easy for people to get access to your data in whatever format it is and make it feel and look like it was a relational database. So, I'm looking at a question here from Utpal, for example. He says, what if my database is not a relational database, just a flat, unstructured database? How do I connect my application to those kind of databases? Well, that's a great example for this particular reason that people choose us. It's about making, we provide, in this particular case, we provide APIs and SDKs that allow you, by implementing a few simple functions, 12 at my last count, once you implement those, we provide a full standards-based driver that does the hard work of the SQL parsing and actually executing a SQL engine. So we can adapt any type of data source, not just relational, to make it feel and look and act semantically as if it were a relational database, even if it's just a flat, unstructured database. An example of a customer that did this and who came to us to solve this problem is Netsuite. And Netsuite, I'm sure many of you have heard of them before, but they're a mid-market ERP company. They provide one suite, one platform on one database that has all of your CRM, your ERP, your e-commerce. And their customers came to them and said, Netsuite, we love you. Your APIs are great. My developers are working well with them. But I really need something that's going to allow NetSuite to integrate into my analytics environment. I want to be able to use Crystal Reports or Cognos or Tableau or ClickTack or one of a variety of BI tools that people have standardized on even Excel. I want to be able to get the data out of NetSuite and make my business decisions based on it. And what the tools I use to make business decisions, more often than not, are BI-oriented tools. So how do we make it really, really easy for customers to pull data out of NetSuite? I can't go to an analyst and tell them, hey, you have to implement this API. They look at me cross-eyed because they don't really code. So this is a solution which allows any analyst to pick up any standards-based driver, plug it into their tool of choice, whether it's Excel or something sophisticated like a Cognos or a Tableau, and then suddenly have access to all of the data lying inside of NetSuite. So what we found is that 60% of their customers are now using their ODBC capabilities, and they love it. So NetSuite implemented this one driver, they adapted directly to their internal data structures and into their internal APIs, and now provide a fully functional, standards-based ODBC driver to their customers, which plugs right into Excel without any additional work. So I don't have to tell my analyst, hey, there's this great API you could use. Instead, I could just tell them, here, plug this into Excel and everything will work for you. And finally, simplifying the chaos of this explosion in different data sources. It used to be an easier business to be in the data connectivity business, because we used to be able to build drivers to the 4 core relational databases out there. And sure, there were a few upstarts and a few open source databases, but there was really a heavy industry consolidation on some core databases. That's not really the case. I showed you my slide on big data, I showed you my slide on SaaS. It's this massive explosion in different data sources. And how can I preserve my existing IT investment? How can I preserve my existing tools? How can I, as Cisco, continue to evolve my applications and connect to all of these new different data sources that are available? Well, the answer is DataDirect, and that we help you simplify that chaos, normalize all those interfaces so everything looks like it used to look, as if it were a simple relational database sitting on premise, whether it's a cloud service, big data, or a data warehouse. An example of a customer that comes to us for this is MicroStrategy. So they embed our connectors. They're obviously a BI analytics company. They're an ISV, much like we are, and much like parts of Cisco are as well. And they embed our technology to make it easier for them to walk into a customer site and say, well, what data sources do you have? Okay, well, I can connect to those right out of the box because they have a partnership with us. They connect right to the databases. And oh, what SaaS applications do you have? Well, you have Salesforce, you have Marketo. I can pull that data in too. It's very easy for them to continue to develop and focus on their core competency, which is building the best BI tools out there, and allow us to make everything in the world look like a source that they already support. So it's this marriage between the two organizations. This partnership provides us that ability to simplify their sales cycle, allow them to focus on their core competency, and many of the points that Keith touched on earlier on why ISVs are choosing us. And always, a vendor always values the one throat to choke. So everyone likes to have a single vendor. Whenever there's a connectivity problem, that partner can come to us, and we figure out ways to resolve those whether it's building new connectors, whether it's giving them SDK access so they can build their own connectors. We always have a solution and provide that high-level partnership, which allows us to move forward together as organizations. I'm going to dig a little bit more into this. Why wouldn't I use API connectivity? Why wouldn't I use point-to-point connectivity? I hear this story pretty often. A customer comes to us and says, I need to have SaaS connectivity. I went to my developers and they said, well, we can build to the API. The API is documented and it's available. So they build their connector, and their first connector is usually a Salesforce connector. And then they go to their customer bases, they ship it, and they find out, well, my customer really wants to use Salesforce in conjunction with their data coming from a marketing automation system like an Eloqua or a Marketo. So they build another adapter to that. And then they find out that Salesforce and Marketo update their APIs every quarter. So now they're maintaining these two new connectors they build, and they go to different customers, and those customers don't use Salesforce. They use, Dynamics, or they use SAP. So eventually, what our customers have found and as I said, I hear this story countless times, is once you start building towards these individual APIs, it becomes an extremely unmanageable process. Because you continue to build, you need experts in the individual APIs. You need to maintain those APIs as they change, and usually they're changing on a quarterly clip right now. Open source projects, like a Cassandra or a Hadoop, they're moving even faster. So quickly, our customers find themselves in this position where they're suddenly in the connectivity business. They're in the data adapter business, as opposed to being able to focus on their core competency. They're not connector vendors. They're building BI tools. They're building ETL tools. They're building applications that need data, but they don't want to be in the data business. So they quickly realize the error of their ways, and they say, isn't there a better approach? And certainly there is. Our approach with DataDirect is to not deal with all of those, not have you as our customer deal with all of these different point-to-point APIs and connectivity traps. Instead, we provide you one API and make everything in the world look like it fits into that API. A unique approach we have to delivering this is Progress DataDirectCloud. So one of the ways we simplify this chaos is through DataDirectCloud. We give you one driver, you embed it in your application. It provides you SQL access, and we're starting to deliver OData access as well, so you can get to mobile devices and other platforms that are looking for a RESTful API. But the key is that one API, that one driver, it normalizes all access to all of these different systems. We give you high performance access and real-time access, so going through our cloud service is actually remarkably quick. We do that SQL adaptation very quickly. We use a number of different performance optimizations in order to do so. And the key is, though, we provide you real-time access. So it's not, you're not looking at a data warehouse, you're not looking at yesterday's view of the data. You're looking at the data through the core native API without you knowing how to use the API. And the data is as it exists today, right now. We designed it in such a way that you can embed that adapter into your application. We've built this business, as Keith started out discussing, we've built this business around partnership. We've built this business around OEMs. We know and understand uniquely how what requirements people have about embedding into software applications. So we've designed all of our solutions to fit nicely inside of our partners' applications. And finally, not having to know all of these different APIs, not having to know all of these different, and not have to maintain all of these different applications and all these different adapters, dramatically allows you to reduce your cost in development or to focus those resources in an area that adds significantly more business value. And as a product manager, I always like to highlight one of the best parts of the DataDirectCloud offering is that I give you one driver, and I continue to add, enhance, maintain, and deliver more and more connectivity through our cloud service. So even though you've shipped and embedded that driver, the sources that it supports, the protocols that it supports, are continuing to increase even after that product ships. So you still have access to it using that same connector, that same technology you originally delivered with your app. You have this ever-growing library of connectivity. Other approaches, and this also speaks to Utpal's question before, is when it's not relational, how can we do it? I usually call on the example of MongoDB for that. MongoDB, for those that are familiar with it, document-oriented database. So it stores, it stores JavaScript objects based on keys. And most connectivity solutions out there for Mongo really focus on just getting connectivity to it and trying to provide you the data in whatever format possible. So they'll do things like they try to flatten the structure, they create new columns, and as they run into new different data values, they create new columns. Overall, they provide you a really difficult approach to work with when you're actually working with the data. You're dealing with all of these virtual or created columns based on what they find in the database. So it never ends up looking like what you would expect a SQL database to do. So we go beyond the traditional approach here for Mongo connectivity. We're really focused on making the data not only feel and fit the standards of a relational database, but also the semantics, making it feel like the data is stored in a relational database. So in a relational database, we take a dramatically different approach. We normalize the data. So even though we have these, basically blobs of unstructured data or JSON objects that have loose structuring around them but a very dynamic schema around them, we take the time to parse apart that data and to make it feel and act as if it were truly in a relational database, going as far as to normalize the data, creating virtual tables, real foreign key relationships. It truly feels and acts as if it were a relational database. Benefits of this obviously are taking all those complex types and making it actually usable to a SQL practitioner. If you create a table, but that table doesn't feel like something I can do SQL queries against, it really doesn't help very much. As you get more and more arrays, your table definitions don't shift around, so longer and longer data sets don't create more and more columns, they simply create more and more rows. So it's I'm getting a little too technical here, so I'm gonna bring it up a level. But the reality is, your data feels like it's in a relational database. You can join it, you can query it, and the schema stays much more stable, even in the face of all the different changing data that comes in from Mongo. So how can we apply some of the things we talked about today inside of the Cisco environment? Well, certainly, openness and interoperability of the software you provide, of your technology, is extremely important. So when you walk into a customer environment, you want to have a platform that integrates with everything that they have. DataDirect can certainly help you interoperate with anything you run into in the IT ecosystem. So you have dramatically faster proof of concept, much less customization required, much less searching around for different connectors when you run into a customer site. All of that comes and is in the box with your Cisco software. We've seen a lot of customers take applications that are core to business or applications that are core to IT or their network staff and take the data inside of those and create BI solutions and analytics solutions, opening up new revenue opportunities. So making your data look and feel as if it were sitting in a relational database is one of the first steps in creating a true BI and analytics initiative around your applications. So we've partnered with a number of companies that have taken their app and added analytics capabilities to it. And finally, we help de-risk a lot of your choices around what data you connect to. So in a way, we future-proof your application by supporting all of our connectors, by working with us and allowing us to evolve that connectivity based on what's happening in the market. Well, the choice of Hadoop distribution is much less of a problem for you. You don't have a massive testing matrix suddenly when there's a new Hadoop distribution available, when there's a new data source that comes out in the market. You're still using the same connectors, the same connectivity solutions, and you've already tested largely them with your product. So whether you're dealing with the variety of sources that are available in big data, some of these new NoSQL sources that are popping up that I suddenly need to get my hands around, all of those choices, as the market changes, you continue to have connectivity to all of them. Our strategy continues to be deliver connectivity to all of these market-leading products. So whether they choose distribution A or distribution B, or data source A or data source B, we provide connectivity to all of those. So you have much less risk in making a choice on a particular vendor. You can choose all vendors because you're partnering with us, and we've made that commitment to supporting all vendors. So that's a bit about DataDirect, and I also wanted to introduce you to Progress Corticon. Corticon's our business rules management system that's part of our Progress Pacific platform. So what is Corticon? What is business rules management? Well, simply it's software that helps you make decisions. You make them at the right time, so you can do them when you need to make the decision, and with business agility, which means your business users, those people that are the domain experts, the subject matter experts in whatever domain you're working with, are the ones that can actually model and create all of these different rules, that model and create all of these different policies. So when I create a policy, I don't need to be a techie guy. I can define the rules that the business has and implement them in software. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So whether it's questions like, should we pay this claim when we're with end users, our end users are using it for insurance eligibility, they're using it for pension eligibility. They're using it for on-the-spot advertising. So if you're gonna, what type of offer should I provide to this customer? Based on what we've seen them do, this we believe this is to be the most the highest potential offer that they're going to accept. So for advertising, for insurance eligibility, even for resource allocation, figuring out who's the right person based on their skill set, based on their time, based on their existing utilization, who should we assign to this project? So every day in all of our pieces of software, in all of our businesses, we make decisions like this. Corticon as a technology allows you to externalize those decisions, define what the criteria are, the policies are for those decisions, and implement them in software in a simple to use way. Traditional approaches to this are programming based, so we all have rules deeply embedded in all of our technologies, but really our developers were the ones that put a lot of those rules in there. They provide some configuration mechanisms that allow for customization, but more often than not, we're stuck in long customization cycles with customers trying to adapt the system that wasn't designed necessarily for their exact use case and extend it to support those use cases. So we can certainly program in simple rules, but it's very difficult to evolve them. It's very difficult to change programs without impacting a significant amount of processes. A significant amount of code is affected by those changes. So we take all of those different decision criteria and throw them into the technology, throw them into the software. Well, Corticon provides a dramatically better approach. What Corticon allows you to do is to separate that decision logic from the code. It allows you to focus developers on what they're really good at, which is hooking together all these different pieces and really some of the hardest technology problems in the world, and allow those with the subject matter expertise, those that we refer to in here as decision modelers, they're the ones that are really responsible for externalizing that logic, defining the logic, and making the app execute in a much easier to use way. So they model their rules, and in one environment within Corticon, we could model the rules, develop them, test them, and deploy them, and then essentially compile them into decision models. And then not only do we focus on that initial development and test experience, but we also focus on the full life cycle of rules. So when you make a change, we can tell you not only this change is available here, but what other rules, what other pieces of the software does it impact. So we really focused on the entire life cycle of decisions and creation of decision services and making it accessible and easy to use for a business user. About 50% of our users in the Corticon base are pure business users with no technical expertise. They're using a tool that's similar to Excel in the way it represents the data, and it's extremely powerful and pulls together all of these rules, hundreds and thousands of rules, into executable Java code or .NET code that runs extremely performantly, extremely scalable in an extremely scalable manner, but it allows you to continue to change it in a robust approach. Just build this out real quick. There are many different use cases certainly for our Corticon technology. I mean, in any case wherever you need to make a decision, you can apply this technology. Whenever you want to make a portion of your application more customizable, you can apply this technology. So we have end users that use it in e-commerce and commerce in general. So whether it's what's the right offer to make for this particular, if it's a marketing use case, what's the right offer to make for this particular account, or based on this user's activity, we should send them a promotion to go to Starbucks right now and buy some coffee. Those are a number of different types of commerce use cases people implement, around offer selection, next best offer. Customer service in general. So who are the customers that deserve the best attention? Where is there issues in fraud? So fraud detection has certainly been a good use case for our Corticon technology. And finally, where I think Cisco can really get a lot of benefit is making applications more customizable. So we've seen users, we have a large base of partners that Keith discussed in the beginning, but many people use Corticon as a way of making the configuration of their application, the customization of their application much, much easier. instead of all of those different decisions and all of those different policies being locked away in the code of your application, and then very esoteric approaches to how do I configure the code to act this way versus that way, our customers have externalized a lot of the complexity of their application and placed it in a set of business rules. So I can provide you, here's the default business rules that I use to manage my environment, but you have the ability to customize it yourself. We provide you this tool. This tool allows you to expand the rules, to change the rules, to have visibility into how the application is really going to function, and to customize it to suit your needs. So this has dramatically reduced the cost of services, the length of services engagements, and dramatically enhanced the ability of end user customers of our applications and of our partners' applications to do the customization themselves. And this delivers massive ROI. I mean, that's, there's a lot of benefit of doing this model-driven approach, both from the perspective of the initial development, so taking a single decision. We were able to go from the original let's code it, let's test it, let's deploy it, let's implement it, which was on the order of 200 some odd hours, and make that a tenth of the time, so a 10x improvement on the initial development. But where people really benefit is in that change cycle. So we do a lot, we automate so much of the dependency analysis and the impact analysis. When you're going to make a change to a rule, well, we can tell you exactly what that's going to affect inside the application, all the other rules that are affected. There's no design work around it because you're just continuing to extend that same rule set. And then implementing it simply becomes using, as I said, our Excel-like tool, accessible to business users. So instead of 50 hours to do a change, we saw in this particular case, in this testimonial, a 25x improvement. So it's not only that initial development, but it's also that continuous change and customization. As new regulations come up, as new initiatives are going on inside of IT or inside of other parts of the organization, how can we continue to evolve and change our decisions and our decision criteria? Corticon provides you an incredibly effective and efficient approach to doing that. That saves lots of time, which in turn certainly saves lots of money. We're also really good at reducing manual steps. There's an example from claims processing, but I'm sure it could be applied. I've seen it applied in a variety of other business processes or more software-driven processes. So what Corticon is really good at, once again, is automating decisions. What humans are really good at is making decisions, but often we overuse all of these different humans. We introduce all of these different slow steps in processes in order to allow humans to make every single decision. With Corticon, you can take all of the different lower end decisions, the simple decisions, the ones that are entirely automatable and policy driven, and dramatically reduce the number of manual steps inside of individual processes. So you call in users, you call in experts where you're in exceptional conditions. You're not using brute force human-based processing for everything you're doing in your process. So we've seen a lot of benefit of using Corticon in conjunction with more traditional process-oriented, BPM-oriented, or workflow-oriented software in a variety of spaces, whether it's on the business side or on the IT side, and dramatically making those processes simpler and reduce the error-prone nature of human activities. So that's a bit about Corticon as well. As I said, this makes service delivery easier, reduces your costs, and improves your agility. So I told you about a lot of products. We talked about a lot of different problems. So in summary, though, Progress, we solve a lot of different use cases. We have solutions for a variety of problems in app dev, in data connectivity, in data integration, in business rules management, and well beyond. I mean, we have a full platform for big data analytics, for app dev, etc. We have a lot of technology. We think we can help Cisco significantly by making it much, much easier to connect to your data, to externalize your decisions and externalize your policies, and reduce the amount of human involvement in your work. We have a long history of partnering. So we've partnered with some of the biggest software and technology vendors in the world. Our track record speaks for itself. But our specialty is really embedding inside our products. We have that history in the partner channel. We understand the unique needs of OEM customers, and certainly that would be a benefit to anyone that would partner with us in the ISV space, in the software space, in the technology sectors. I introduced really two product portfolios here that are part of our Pacific strategy. Both our DataDirect products, both DataDirectCloud, DataDirect, Connect, and the open access products, all make it really easy to connect to a broad portfolio of relational, big data, data warehouse, NoSQL, SaaS applications. Once again, very easy to embed that technology inside of your software. So it's designed for that. Corticon makes it really easy. I like to say, especially when I'm talking to a technology vendor, it makes it really, once you embed Corticon, you've created a foundation technology that makes it much, much easier to customize your apps. So, and obviously there's a host of end-user scenarios as well for that technology, but you can really build your policies into your applications, but make it really, really easy for your end users and your individual customer scenarios to extend them and customize it to their needs. And it covers the full life cycle. It's not just the first one in. You get in there, you have an easy development cycle, and then it's baked into the app. It's the complete life cycle of development, test, deployment, and change where we've focused. And obviously there's so much more that I could talk to you about, but I certainly don't have the luxury of time, and nor do you guys. I appreciate the time you've already contributed to this webinar. But for more information, please contact your account reps. Please visit us at progress.com. If you want to test out some of the technology, some of the software that we've spoken about today, we provide these as fully downloadable evaluation copies. You click Try Now on the website, you'll find a variety of forms and a variety of downloads available, whether you're looking for connectivity, whether you're looking for business rules, whether you're looking for application development technology. We have a variety of solutions available for you to try out right on our website, so don't take my word for it. Please, I encourage you to try it yourself. And obviously, please do reach out to your account team. See lovely pictures of Keith and myself and Beverly, and they're all here to help you to understand how we can help work best with Cisco and how we can fit best inside the Cisco environment. And with that, I want to once again thank you for your time today. I know you have very busy schedules, and I appreciate you setting aside some time to talk with us from Progress.
I just wanted to thank everybody for joining, and we'll be in touch to talk a little bit further about how you go about your database connectivity and some possible interest around Corticon.